What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also host the only online program in the world for dads and fathers that's sponsored by Dove Men Care. It's also co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization. And in collaboration with both of those organizations, I've been able to contact directly or indirectly over 75,000 fathers around the world. And I am the board chair for the Global Food and Drink Initiative, which is a multimedia not-for-profit that showcases Blacks in the diaspora that are doing their thing in food, drink, and travel. And I always like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. Sunday afternoon, a little bit after 5 p.m. Eastern Time, we are broadcasting live on Black Canada Talking, which is a live event where we give Black Canadians the opportunity to give their takes and POVs on stories that are of importance to them domestically, in their neighborhood, around the world, et cetera, even in the universe. And we also showcase great Black Canadians that are doing their thing. Tomorrow is Election Day in Black Canada. And last Tuesday, we had quite a robust conversation with three of our regular panelists, Elle Jones, Sarah Youngo, and Warren Clark. And we had a special guest, Louis March of the Zero Gun Violence Movement in Toronto. So we are continuing the pre-election chatter. So what we're going to do, first things first, I'm just going to play a little bit of a video that is going to talk about what are Black Canadians wanting to happen, or what are they talking about, what's on their minds during this election. So we're going to put up this video up right now, and then after we will get our friends on for today. So let's hear the video.
Even though like I had homophobic parents, I was very sheltered, so it didn't really like now, you know, like now, like I know like the LGBT resources that are out there for people that are homeless and stuff. So whoever is supporting that is who I will be voting for.
Something about racism that I'm actually looking at is not just to talk about race. It's not just to identify that it's an issue, but to actually put forth what we're actually going to do for it. So stuff like financial instability. There is so much more. How small businesses, particularly small businesses owned by people of color, how they've been treated.
The most important issue for me would essentially just be the racial divide that's happening throughout the election process, and not even just the racial divide, but even the divide that's happening with COVID and being vaccinated or not being vaccinated and all these different things. I hope that we can just unify and just make the correct decisions and, you know, move forward together.
Right now, folks are just getting into the whole idea of anti-Black racism, which is something that has been ingrained, as I said before, in our society for many, many years. I am a Black queer man here in Ottawa, but someone who is in Vancouver, who is a cisgendered Black person, is also feeling the repercussions of anti-Black racism. Whether we walk into a room and folks, the first thing they see is the color of our skin.
I would say mental health, with a lot of individuals losing employment, and then having to, you know, with the social distancing, not able to connect with families the way you want to. I think it's taken a toll on families, it's taken a toll on the elderly. It's taken a toll on the youth, especially the youth.
One of the things I'm thinking about this election and where we are now is that we have to hold our leaders accountable for the kinds of things that they are promising. They want a country that is indeed diverse.
The biggest issue for me is how we are going to recover from this pandemic, and really with the lens of how we're going to really step it up for our kids that have suffered so much through this pandemic.
Okay. So that was taken from the CBC website. So thank you, this Canada Broadcasting Corporation, for that. So today we have two of our regular Black Canada Talking panelists with us. We have Sarah and Cesar, both from Ottawa. So let's welcome them both and ask how both of you are doing.
Is it ladies first or?
I've been told I've been told I'm not supposed to say ladies, women first. I've been told now I have to say
Okay.
women first.
Ladies, women, whatever.
Women
As long
first. Go ahead.
As long as, yeah. So I'm actually Quebec, on the Quebec side.
Sorry.
And I have held up surprisingly well, considering the 10-hour days and the working on Sundays. My shift just ended actually. And all of the acrimony that I've been seeing and hearing with anti-vax and, all the protests, there were a lot of protests in my neighborhood that were very distressing throughout the summer. And that even started last year. And I was just, I'm ready for this election to just happen and for us to move on to the next stage.
Well, by the end of this week, I hope you get a well-deserved rest.
Yes.
Fantastic. Cesar, have not seen you for a few weeks. Hope the vacation was a good one.
Indeed, thank you. It was great to have the month of August vacation off and time with family and my baby. So, you know what they say, family first. So, but it's a pleasure to be back. You all, I missed you all, and of course our conversation, especially in this epic time. And as I was telling Sarah off before the show started, I absolutely love these elections. I love this. This is, trust me, I know how it can come off, but I love this. It's not complicated. This is what it's about. This is the
Democracy.
evolution. Yeah, it's democracy. It's the evolution of the Western world with different dynamics. When I say different dynamics, and I don't want to say too much right now as we're just starting, like I was telling Dr. Vibe, I'm not wearing a Wu-Tang outfit for nothing. I will get to explain why later. But in the same time, the photo of the Black leaders behind me, and yes, including Obama and Martin Luther King, the photos of the Black leaders behind me speak to the fact of these changing dynamics in democracy that gets to be seen in elections. Never before systemic racism was part of conversations in elections, even if a certain party leader likes to deny it. Never before have we seen such a Trump of the North version, openly white supremacist. Never before have we seen a Black woman, even if it's mainly her Jewish identity that's put at the forefront. And never before, when we look at Jagmeet Singh, the separation of church and state with the turban, but then you're trying to get votes in Quebec. There's so many passionate dynamics in a pandemic context, in an economic recession context, in a changing society context, aka working from home versus etc., the rising cost of life, so many dynamics. I absolutely love it as a Black person, as a Pan-Africanist, and as an intellectual. Yeah.
Well, you sound like you're loving the election just by that opening comment. I want to know from both of you. Well, actually, Cesar first, because you've not been with us for a little bit. What is your community saying about this election?
It's a bit difficult to say. As you know, as a Pan-Africanist, my community is Black people worldwide. But let's, for the sake of the conversation, let's recenter to Ottawa, Gatineau, and Sarah, of course, you jump in anytime. I don't want to speak too much for many, but the reality in terms of Black people, and it kind of joins a lot of non-Blacks and notably white. Why was this election called for? Between a fourth wave / Delta variant, an economic recession, in brackets, issues of mental health, and ongoing systemic racism. Was it really the time to call an election? Or is it just political opportunism by Trudeau? Like I said, I love it. It's strategy. That's what politics is about. It's about power. It's about getting it, keeping it and putting on a narrative in order to stay in power. So I don't have a problem with Trudeau calling the election, but for my black people, I have to say it. This was not the best time. This is a time that is increasing on the, how can I put it? And I don't want to say too many words, but black people are
Inequality.
nervous. Yes, inequality. In a time of rising inequalities. And when I say rising inequalities, we are still in the pandemic context. So what's going to come after? And even when we look at, I don't want to go too far in the conversation. Even when we're looking at something that before our current context could have seemed trivial, like a vaccinal passport. But a vaccinal passport where if you disagree with it, you may lose your job, and then now how do you get possibilities to be rehired? Like you're trying to get back into social life. Your mental health is being affected, but also social relations in terms of your circle of friends. The elections is the last thing you would have wanted to be thinking about 3 months ago, but it's something that you have to really think about, because it's not just about who might win, but also who might be the opposition. And also there's that purple party, aka MAGA of the North. Yeah, MAGA of the North. Suddenly they're getting up to 6.6% of the vote by the CBC poll tracker. Suddenly it's becoming uncomfortable. Yesterday I was in Ottawa, and I drove by Parliament Hill. I'm going to be blunt. White people walking around with big purple flags of the PPC, that kind of reminds me of a certain January 6th Capitol in the US with openly white supremacists and MAGA. They will deny it. That's fine. The Nazis also denied being racist. What do you know?
Yeah. So on the as some of your audience may or may not know, Ottawa-Gatineau is the federal capital. So the largest employer is the federal government, and this vaccine mandate really affects a lot of Black people, because the ones who are the higher income earners will tend to be working for the federal public service in this area. So there's that. And so the whole the protesting against mandatory masking, vaccine mandates, et cetera, these protests, I'd like you to know that a lot of those people, they come from my side of the river, on the Quebec side, where there's a lot of the QAnon, MAGA, loving, admiring, PPC supporting, etc. It's on a lot on my side of the river, and you're not going to be seeing some Black folks out there, okay, protesting with these people. And it's not just because they're afraid that they will be the first to be apprehended, attacked, and brutalized by law enforcement. No. It's because of the reasons you mentioned earlier, where they have other fish to fry, okay? They're trying to survive somehow. The government help, COVID, aid, that's coming to an end, people. That's coming to an end. So what's going to happen to Black people who do not work in the federal public service, who are not part of the middle class, who are in those precarious jobs, menial jobs with no proper health insurance, benefits, etc., who don't have the means to have daycare, who aren't equipped at home to have the kids learn at home when the school suddenly is going to shut down. And if this fourth wave continues the way it is, chances are that's going to happen. And so what are they going to do? And without Wi-Fi at home, living in congregate settings where everybody's crowded, where not everybody's vaccinated. And in a lot of our cases, it's not as much about conspiracy theory as it is about access, like the time to go and where's the pop-up clinic and how do I find out where it is, and I don't even speak English, I don't even speak French, I speak Arabic, Somali, and another Amharic, some other language. The information isn't getting out, etc., etc. So yes, as as
Ha-
Cesar said, we had other things on our mind, and then of course there's this class action lawsuit by our black federal public servants that's ongoing, and that really has brought to the fore the issue of systemic anti-black, not just racism, but hate and obstruction, and just not wanting for Black people to progress. They want our taxes, but they don't want us to benefit from those taxes that we put into the federal public service.
Well, then let me ask also now, what have you heard anything that any of the federal parties have said that has been directed to Black Canadians?
If I may,
It, de-
go ahead,
it,
Sarah.
it depends on who's talking, because I've attended a bunch of the online debates. The thing is, those are debates that have been targeting the Black community specifically. So it depends on where they have been. O'Toole, I haven't heard anything that I can tell you right now. The Conservatives, boo, nothing. You know, the NDP, yeah, kind of, sort of. Um, and even then, it's not Singh; it's him sending the surrogates. The Matthew Greens and people like that to speak on their behalf. The Green Party, though, probably because she is a sister and she herself has been experiencing the anti-Black racism that we are talking about from her own party, her own people trying to oust her in the middle of an election campaign, would you know? She seems to be the one that has gotten up and consistently spoken about it. Now, whether she can actually do something about it or not, because we know the Green Party is not going to be the government. Okay. Not this election, probably not for elections in my lifetime, unless the electoral system changes and we get away from first past the post, right? But yeah, really, we're kind of the afterthought as usual, right? Although there were a whole bunch of announcements leading up to the election call. Somebody last week talked about cash propaganda. I found that kind of funny. There were announcements, however, it's hundreds of millions over 5 years, 10 years, over, a number of years. And like Louis was asking last time, hello, show me the money. Where is it? When is it going to leave the desk? When is it going to leave, uh, you know, the 3 or 4 offices it has to pass through before it gets onto the street where the people need it? So yeah, I guess Anime Paul is the only one that's said anything.
Go ahead, my brother.
Let's be clear regarding addressing Blacks' issues in this campaign. Um, I'm going to take maybe 3 or 4 examples, well, actually, of each party. So Sarah already spoke well regarding the Green Party. So let me address the others. And I'm going to be very blunt here. CBC journalist, our brother David Turton, had addressed Erin O'Toole following, I'm going to say the English debate, but I don't remember exactly which one, asking him regarding systemic racism. And Erin O'Toole was basically dancing, bobbing, and weaving, anything you want to call it, instead of addressing the question directly. He's pretty much playing the same tune as the Bloc Québécois leader, Yves-François Blanchet, aka, I know systemic racism exists, but it's not a reality in Canada. I want to be careful here. I am apolitical. I support anyone who supports me when it comes to politics. I have shaken hands with Doug Ford, just as I have supported liberals Greg Ferguson, Chandra Arya, who have shown me support as well. So that is not a question. But when I say apolitical, my first and priority concern is my Black people. And as such, I am sorry for our Black people who want to vote conservative, some of them in my own family, by the way. Erin O'Toole does not recognize systemic racism because politically talking, it would be a suicide for him, notably with his very white electorate in the West. Yes, there's some diversity in Ontario that will vote conservative. Doug Ford is a proof of that. But Doug Ford himself, in 24 hours, I think it was in 2018, came to recognize that systemic racism is very much present in Ontario and Canada. So it's not even so much a matter of conservative, it's a matter of the character of the leader. And in such, as a Black person, call me community leader, call me whatever you want to call it, Pan-Africanist, I cannot tell a Black person to vote for conservative. It would be as if all of us here are Jewish people, and I would be telling another Jewish person to vote for a white party leader who does not recognize anti-Semitism. We can't even picture that. When it comes to Maxime Bernier, I mean, the PPC, People's Political Party, I mean, these are openly populists. He's a wannabe Trump of the North. I mean, I have to be careful in saying that because he actually did the opposite of Donald Trump. Donald Trump infiltrated the Republican Party as a virus. He exited the Conservative Party where he could have become the party leader, the party chief. He lost by very few to Andrew Scheer, so he logically could have become party chief. He went on to create his own party, respect to him. And what we're seeing is that he is giving that voice to the, and we have to be careful because at the same time, I don't want my words to come off the wrong way, but I'm not saying each and every person who supports Bernier or Trump is necessarily a racist, but I know one thing. If we're talking about being in or out of the closet of racism and white supremacy, Maxime Bernier is definitely the one who is the most out there, while Erin O'Toole is in the closet. And I'm not giving a pass to Justin Trudeau at all. We all know about blackface and brownface, but he did recognize systemic racism. He did put, even if it comes with having to pay it back, money regarding Black communities in addressing a lot of the issues that we talk about. It's insufficient. It will always be insufficient, but I cannot discredit someone for at least recognizing the harshness and the realities that my people go through. As per Jagmeet Singh, what choice does he have? However, he finds himself quite conflicted in his own identity and political message as a leader in a nation that separates religion and state, but he has an obvious religious affiliation with his turban, and he hopes to gain votes in Quebec. It's just messy, to be quite blunt. As a Black person, this election is just another example or reminder. We are not in our countries. We are in a Western/white country, and we are not even 4% of the population. We are not such a minority, economically talking, demographically talking, that even politically we have the weight that we should have if we went by representation. What Greg Fergus was talking about, there should be at least 15 Black MPs, men and women, to represent us. That's not even the case. So all I would tell my Black people is vote as you wish. Just don't get it twisted. The NDP will not win. The Green Party will not even be the opposition. And why would you vote conservative when they deny your existence? And the PPC, truly, they want you out. A party that's anti-immigrant is a party that's anti-Black. It's quite simple.
Yeah. Yeah. So the thing about the denial of systemic anti-Black racism in Quebec, for the audience that's not familiar with Quebec society and its history and its politics, you do realize that white francophones, they want to maintain their victim status in Canada. So recognizing systemic anti-Black, anti-Muslim, anti-South Asian, anti-whatever other race other than them, racism, that they perpetrate against all those other groups, you do realize that kind of waters down their victim status when facing Canada and trying to demand things for themselves and their own community, right? So when you have Blanchet's reaction to, by the way, there was only one English debate. There were two French ones and one English. And so when you saw his reaction, like the arrogance of it all and sort of the whole taking it personally, it's like, look, it's the policy. It's not, you yourself, this white pure land, the Swish, whatever guy. It's the policy of that particular government. They always personalize it to remind you that, hey, listen, we are the victims in this Canada setup. So don't come here with, systemic anti-Black racism, even though in Montreal, the mayor, Valérie Plante, has recognized that's the what do you call that? The irony of living in Quebec, where you get the mayor who is somewhat progressive and does recognize the issues that face our growing Black community, the gun violence, the underemployment and unemployment, and the systemic anti-Black racism. And then you get the premier who's all about, denying it. Then you get the federal, the leader of the federal party that purports to represent the interests of all Quebecers, which clearly he doesn't. That's it. Like César was saying, it is messy. It really is messy. So very hard choices to make. Like César says, my advice is really start locally. Look locally in terms of what whoever is running in your riding. What are they going to do for you in your riding? Because it starts from there. That's the closest you really get to it, right? So look at that person. Look at their platform.
So Cesar and Sarah, let me ask, I know a number of people who regularly don't vote.
Oh, hello. No, that's not an option.
So what do you have to say for those who say, you know what? There's nothing in this for me. I'm not voting.
You know what? It depends. Okay. So it depends on where they're from. Because when a Black person tells you that, you can't sort of come at them aggressively, because many of us have left African countries where even if you do vote, the nepotism, the tribalism, and the military, there's always the potential of military takeover. Look at Guinea recently, right? The skepticism around that. And I think part of it is because they haven't really educated themselves properly as to how in Canada the system doesn't work like that, right? So there's some education that needs to be done. And then they have to remember that by not voting, you let somebody else speak for you. And chances are, because the people who consistently vote will be whiter, older, more sort of ensconced in Canadian society, and very much disinterested in what matters most to you as a Black person. So you have to keep that in mind, that somebody else will go there and speak for you. And after you have not voted and all these other people have gone and voted their people in and are doing things that are detrimental to you, you don't get to say nothing. You get to take a couple of seats and not say anything until you go back to the voting booth in the next election. So it's a very dangerous choice to make. And if you have to, hold your nose and take the least harmful to yourself, your family, and your community. But my God, vote. People died for this. If you know Canadian history, people fought very hard to earn this right to vote. And by the way, it's the same as the people who think, oh, well, getting vaccinated or not is my personal choice. Yeah, your personal choice is going to affect all of society around you, including you and your family. So think on it and then act on it.
Go ahead, Cesar.
So uh, I may come off, so I have to, I'm not coming off contradicting what our sister Sarah said. I agree 100% with everything she said for the vast majority of our population. I'm going to say it quite simply. If you can vote, if you are legally allowed to vote and you are here in Canada, notably in contrast to our Caribbean and African countries, and notably if you're here as a descendant of a kidnapped African into slavery, yes, please do vote. Your voice matter because whether we are 4% or 0.4%, that ballot, each and every ballot can make a difference. The difference don't look so much in terms of who is sitting in at the head of the parliament, but look in terms of your community. Now that I've said that, in speaking a little bit more personally, but also of a certain minority in the Black community, I have become, for the last 8 years, I'm going to say the last 8 years, I no longer vote. I've become apolitical. Yes. As a Pan Africanist, 100%, it makes zero difference to me who's in power in terms of Canada, France, the US, because at the end of the day, none of them will have the best interest of the Black community. So it may come off a bit contradictory to what I just said in terms of recognizing that Justin Trudeau at least acknowledged systemic racism, but no. Personally, it makes zero difference. My focus is in regards to my community, and as such, what ends up happening is simply the fact that, as I said, I support those who support me. But at the same time, I will be telling my Black people, vote as you wish, but these are the people you should not be voting for because they are very open against your own interest. And I said it. The conservative leader, Erin O'Toole, will deny systemic racism. Maxime Bernier and the PPC were anti-immigration, and anti-immigration means also anti-Black. NDP and Green Party, NDP will not win, and Green Party will not even be the opposition. So I've said it very clearly. You make your choices. For me, it makes zero difference. It makes zero difference. Whether my focus is the Black community. I didn't get upset when Doug Ford, in terms of provincial elections, I didn't get upset when Doug Ford became Prime Minister of Ontario. I went to meet him. I had a direct conversation with him, and based on that conversation, I took a photo with him and I shook hands and I told him, I'm going to be watching you. And he said, keep an eye on me. I need that. But he was thankful that at least I showed up. Because at the end of the day, kind of like our revered leader, Brother Malcolm X said, the ballot or the bullet. For me, it's not a reliance on the ballot. It's a recognition that whoever is in power in these white Western countries, as anywhere in the world, anti-Black racism continues, and that's what I fight against. That's my priority.
Okay, excellent.
But yes, Black people do go vote. Do go vote. If I can just very quickly put this in brackets, what Sarah was saying, and that's why I said from the very start, I agree 100% with what our sister said. Allow me to give some statistical numbers here. Black people are, they say 3.4, 3.5, let's say just below 4% of the Canadian population. The Sikh community is not 4% of the population. There are more Black people in Canada than Sikh people, but they vote. They vote strongly. And when you look at provincial elections,
oh yeah,
the map in Ontario, especially in Toronto and the GTA,
Brampton, yeah.
there you go.
Brampton.
Malton, Brampton.
And then it reflects. And then it reflects on city councils. It reflects in municipal policies. And it reflects in provincial elections. And guess what? The Minister of Defense is Sikh in a country where we don't have, I mean, I know about Minister Hussein, of course, but it's not representative of our numbers. That said, we don't hear the Jewish and Chinese communities protest that they don't have representation in the cabinet, but they're strong economically. So either you vote a lot or you focus a lot on developing your economy. The ideal, you do both. So my Black people, go vote. I strongly encourage you to vote, as Sister Sarah was saying.
And I'm kind of disappointed that you don't vote, Cesar, but I'm keeping in mind that you're seeing that in a context where on the other side of the border, our African American brothers and sisters, especially Sister Stacey Abrams, Latasha Brown, and all of these, the Fair Fight people, the Black Voters Matter people, whatever, have been fighting hard
Absolutely.
to make sure that they fight this voter suppression that's going on. And it strikes me that here in Canada, we as Black people, we even have the luxury of, yeah, well, maybe I'll vote or not, because our for national elections, it's centralized. It's a federal agency that runs it.
Mhm.
It's run the exact same way, no matter where you are in Canada, from coast to coast to coast to coast. Unlike the U.S., where it's each state decides whatever, and they can get rid of the election board or the scrutineers or the who and the what and whatever. We have the luxury, and I find in Canada. I wonder what kind of scare it's going to take for Black people on this side to realize that, you know what, just as you think you can take for granted your vote, it could be taken back.
But
Maybe
Sarah,
that's what is going to put the heat under people's bums to realize that we kind of don't have the luxury of not voting.
yes, that's exactly what I was
I
going to
wonder.
say. No. That's you just said it. That's what I was going to say. Black people as a group, as an identity marker, whether you're applying for a job, are we talking about police brutality, are we talking about healthcare systems, or even when we're looking in terms of streets, we're talking about urbanism. Where do neighborhoods that have less city services, aka ghettos, who do they tend to be overrepresented with? So indeed, as you said, Black people as a whole do not have the luxury to vote. That's why from the start, it's important that we do pass the message for our Black people to go vote. If you can't afford to be, as I am, a Pan-Africanist in terms of strong in your ideology, but when I say strong in your ideology, we have to be careful because we know too many, allow me to play a little bit the gender game, too many brothers would like to make excuses not to take the civic duty. But are you involved in the community? Are you standing up? Are you speaking? Are you being an advocate? O'Toole or Trudeau, I'm still there. People know Cesar will still be representing. So for me, that's not the point in terms of me as an individual. But in terms of my community, absolutely, absolutely. Like our sisters in the state, and of course, some brothers also were there on the ground. We need to get our Black people to vote. We need for our Black people, either you show that you're strong politically by the percentage that votes, or you show that you're strong economically by showing that you don't care who's in power. The ideal is for us to become both of them. That's the ideal. The reality is usually one or the other. That's why we don't see Jewish, Chinese communities, Indian communities protesting for who wins or who loses, because they have developed strong communities economically in the identity to the point where whether it's blue or red in Canada or in the US. A little example, the richest community in terms of percentage when we put the proportions in the US, but also in the world, is the American Jewish community. It's the richest minority in the US and in the world. When you run for elections in the US, whether you're a Democrat or whether you are a Republican, they all go to give speeches at APAC and those Jewish organizations to try to get the vote. The Republicans candidate, they know it very well. The statistics are there. There's not more than 25% of Jews who vote Republicans. Not even 25. At the very most, it's 25 because Democrats get 75 to 80% of the Jewish vote. And yet the Republican candidate still goes to speak to them. that shows you the strength of a community. Us as Black people, we do not have the luxury to not vote. That Cesar votes or doesn't vote, Cesar is still there on the ground, is still there speaking up, is still there in the media. If you're not doing that, don't come at me with I don't care who wins. You should very much care because you cannot afford not to care.
Powerful, powerful. I'm concerned about how many people are not going to vote in this election who are Black. I really am concerned because, and then they may be the same people say, hey, how come they're not doing this, this, and this, or they're not happy with this?
I think there will be a high abstention vote. I think in an election like this, because it's so contentious, so many angry people, but also COVID context, economic recession, mental health, systemic racism have never been, so much spoken about. Equity. Everybody nowadays is a new gig. Everybody wants to claim they're equity champions or they do equity work, and most of them they don't. They discovered the language 6 months ago. But what's happening is simply this: the amount of people who will be abstaining from voting will be a strong indicator of not just the political climate of the country, but also the social climate. And the way I look at it, in 2021, it will be very much telling of the type of society Canada is veering towards to in the next 4, 5, 10 years to come, at least, just as we're seeing in the US.
Well, this is the thing, though. If less people vote, regardless of their background, that favors the Conservative Party.
Absolutely, because they always turn out their base. Definitely. But Dr. Vive and Cesar, I'm struck by how little I've seen or heard from, a lot of our community organizations in terms of, sort of getting ahead of election day and doing the civic education work with people and churches as well, because it's interesting how churches say, oh, we're not political and this and that. I'm like, hell yeah, you all are political, because I've seen a bunch of you at conservative events and blah, blah, blah. And, the people you're supposed to serve, do you not care about their interests other than the money they can bring into your church or your mosque, right? And they forget the history of organizing in the United States, which was in the damn church. It was in the church.
Well, Sarah, and I think that is a whole other.
That's another show. Sorry.
No, but it's a very important point, because again, we're seeing the lack of sustainability thinking.
Yes.
It's like there are organizations that are like counting on certain parties winning. What happens if they don't win?
Exactly. What's plan B?
Right. And the sad thing is, I'm not going to say any names, but I'll just say certain organizations, they just seem to have a mandate for themselves to look good. And they're not taking into account the real person that needs it in the street.
Right.
Right. They're not taking them into account. And like I say, we need, like going back in the day, we need to have a summit where we lock the doors and we don't come out till we agree.
Yeah. And Dr. Vibe, I'm sure you have some of our American friends who are tuned in, but I have to applaud the African Americans who came up with the state of the Black community, which they have every year. It is televised. Yes. Tavis Smiley used to host it for a number of years.
National Urban League, State of Black America.
Right. So Mark Morial and them, right?
Yeah.
And so we've had nothing like that. And please don't talk to me about the National Black Canadian Summit or whatever, because that's not necessarily what, it doesn't have the same heft, that the State of Black America. We need a State of Black Canada every year that focuses specifically on policy, government policy.
Well, Again, this is a further conversation we'll have on a roundtable, but I'm just going to put it out there. I'm going to say something, and I'm saying it more and more and more. I say to Black people, the more they admit it. Many Black people, and not just in this country, I'm talking around the world, suffer from a combination of one of these three things, or a combination: trauma. I want to say the last one: repetition and symbolism.
Yes.
So we will have for people who are watching this live on the replay, we're going to have a conversation about those three things, not just Black, period: trauma, repetition, symbolism,
And symbolism.
and
Yeah.
and it can be applied to this election.
Yeah, but
Yep.
Dr. Vibe, it's normal. It's totally normal. I mean, look at the leaders behind me. Look at the conversation, even if they only met once, actually. Brother Malcolm X and Brother Martin Luther King. Brother Martin Luther King, how can I put it? Malcolm X is painted by mainstream media as this radical, anti-white, angry Black man, but he got softer closer to when he
At the end.
died, and more lenient, more understanding. While Martin Luther King is revered and has that holy day after him, was seen and painted more and
was
more as
radical.
radical and extremist and all that. But when they had the conversation between the two of them, Malcolm X notably warned Martin Luther King about the dangers of integration. And I believe it was in his 1967 or 1968 speech, one of his speeches, he said that he was fearing he brought his people in a house on fire. So even he was recognizing the dangers of integration in making far too many Black people so happy to be in white society, to go to the same places, that they lose the pride of Blackness in terms of standing up and raising the fist until the system basically beats them down and hurts them in reminding them of their Blackness, which is basically what has happened in the US. 8 years of Obama, and yes, I did go to help get Barack Obama elected in 2008 with one of community leaders, Rochelle DeCos. But 8 years of Obama clearly saw too many Black people become lenient, become
complacent.
And suddenly with Trump, there was a wake-up call. So here in Canada, without the same history and with the fact of so many notably Black organizations being seen as being eating in the hands of the Liberal Party, it makes a lot of people, notably a lot of Black people, feel like, not much more involvement, not much more drive to be out there.
Just to piggyback on what you're saying, sir, because you're saying that you haven't heard anything from organizations, because it's interesting. I think some of them are towing the line. They don't want to ruffle any feathers.
Of course.
Right. So that's the thing. But again, symbolism. They've been promised something. Mm-hmm. Promising and cut the check are two different things.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, let me come back and say some organizations have been trying to mobilize and do something. Operation Black Vote Canada. Yes, Velma Morgan, we see you. We see your efforts. Non-partisan organization.
There you go.
But they've done what they could in their lane. And their lane is, the education piece, the preparing and supporting potential candidates, the advocating with all of the major federal parties to push them to put Black candidates in winnable ridings and to put resources behind it. So organizations like that, yes, the BBPA, y'all can criticize whatever you want, but Nadine and them, working with some other organizations, they've actually, sort of gotten into partnerships with other groups to advocate together for the business community and the professional community, etc. And yes, there are people out there who are going to be saying, yeah, but that's the elite. Those are the business owners. Those are the people who already have the money. They already have the influence, etc., etc. But they're doing something for their people. The people, the organizations I'm looking at really are the ones that tend to focus more on the social. It's very much the social, you
Well,
know.
it has to be the social because most of the a majority of Black Canadians need to engage with the social because of the economics. I think that this and I'm wondering how many people are watching this live on replay, Black Canadians, if they encountered anyone who was campaigning, did they ask that representative, what is your party's platform for the Black community?
We asked that at the Ottawa debate, which was organized by 613-819 Black Hub, and which focused exclusively on some, not all, of the issues of concern to our Black community. So Greg Fergus was there. There was someone running against him for the Green Party. Someone from the Conservative Party was invited, but she pulled out at the last minute. And we had the NDP candidate from the Ottawa side, Huda Mukbil, right? And we asked them pointed questions, around the funding for mental health services and healthcare, declaring anti-Black racism a public health issue. Declaring that a public health issue, okay? Issues around immigration and foreign policy with regard to the Tigray province, and Canada's implication in that particular mess in the Horn of Africa, etc. And hemming, hawing, very generalizations, etc. But at least they came and agreed to debate. You can actually watch that debate on the Rogers TV YouTube. But quite frankly, most of the candidates, who mostly are white or Asian that I've seen around here, no, it just goes way right over their head. Or you get the response of, well, I want to fight racism for everybody, for the First Nations, for the Indigenous, for the whatever. Or actually, they come at you with, well, I'm focused on First Nations and Indigenous, the original inhabitants of the land. And I'm focused on, and I'm like, nah, that's not what I asked you. Yes,
Right.
we have solidarity for First Nations, but that's not what I asked you. So they gloss it over and they do what usually happens, where our particular Black issues get buried and just sort of watered down.
So that's the thing. Oh, go ahead, Cesar. Sorry.
If I can just add very quickly, absolutely, there are organizations that are involved in getting people out there to vote. But one of the common problems that we have in terms of Black community in Canada, and as well in the United States, and as well in UK, and as well in France, is the very corruption of the system. So if I give an example in terms of the mainstream society, aka whites, the anger of many of elections now is because of the system that doesn't have it, that every 4 years at a specific date you get elections. So basically the party in power can play with that in terms of their own political opportunism. Okay, but in terms of Black people, one of the things that happen is that in terms of our organizations, the vast majority of our organizations, in order to survive, they rely on what? They rely on funding. And the very nature of the funding becomes dependent on who is in power, aka who seems to be more, well, I should say more, who seems to be less openly racist. Because just like in the US, Democrats and Republicans have racists on board.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
There you go. The only difference is there are some who are outside of the closet and there are those who are in the closet. So the logic of the lesser of two devils basically makes it that in terms of Black community organizations, for the vast majority of them, when comes issues of power, when comes issues of open advocacy, I'm not saying that you're against racism. I'm saying you in power, what do you intend to do regarding us Black people? Because if you don't, this is what we're going to do. We're going to boycott you and all that. The vast majority of Black organizations, of Black leaders, and also Black community people, They are scared. They will not do it. This is what I meant when I was giving the example of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X as a trap to integration, because as Franz Fanon wrote so well in his book regarding the wretched of the earth, but also black skin, white mass, one of the things that happen with the dangers of integration is that the value, the sense of self of the black individual living with the scars of slavery and colonization, systemic racism, and so many inferiority complexes, his sense of self and worth is as close as I can be to the white or Arab or Jewish or Asian. At least I'm there. No, that's not how you should look at it. You should look at it that I am an equal to you, and as such, we shall speak as equal. But as long as our communities are weak, it will never happen. It will never happen, and we will keep producing generations of weak black people because our children, they look at the parent. So my child can look at me and see me as a role model, as I saw my father, just as I saw Sarah Onyengo. But these are individuals, just as you show is becomes of an individual versus other communities. When you look, for example, just drive on the highway, so many of the truck drivers are sick, of the sick community. But then look at also Toronto and the GTA. You see a lot of community politics that are spearheaded by sick community members, and then you get a prime minister like Doug Ford or a prime minister at the federal level like Justin Trudeau. Who knows? You have to take account of the sick community. That's what it is.
Well, we have come to the end of our conversation because
What? No, we're just getting started.
You need rest for tomorrow. So do
Oh my
I.
God, yeah, yes.
I'm going to put this out there. You don't have to answer, but do you have any predictions?
Minority liberal, because what's going to end up happening, judging by the protests, the anti-vax, anti-mask, anti-ending the pandemic, anti-bringing our economy back, anti-making sure you don't overwhelm, the healthcare system and the professionals who are supposed to run it and give us the care that we need. Judging by how PPC is taking over, they're going to eat away votes from the conservatives. That's a given. That really is a given. I'm hoping that in Quebec, fewer bloc seats, more NDP seats. We need some new Democrats in there because our province is more of the social democrat. In spite of the conservative premier we have there, Legault, and his CAC, who's already embracing Erin O'Toole and blah, 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 whatever. I'm predicting, minority liberal. It's going to be same old, same old. Like, we're going to come back and say, okay, we did this for what?
Cesar.
Wow. As a Pan-Africanist, of course, you understand, whoever is in power makes zero difference to me. But in terms of what is best for the Black community, I have to side with Sister Sarah Onyengo in saying minority liberal. Unfortunately, minority liberal might make too many Black people feel comfortable in terms of kind of a statu quo, where versus if it was minority conservative, people might start to wake up and become more active, more involved. So this is always a danger with the Black community. You want what's best for your community, but because of, like I was saying, slavery, colonization, systemic racism, and inferiority complexes, if they get the best, too many of them relax instead of being like, oh, this government is openly against us. Because, as Sarah said, those PPC votes, they went from marginal, not even invited to the debate because of not even
6%. Oh my God.
You see what I mean? And suddenly, they're getting close to 7%. The other question that I would basically have, NDP will be third, so that won't change. Will the Green Party even have a seat? AKA, will Anami Paul even have a seat?
She won't.
Is this going? You see. I'm not. Allow me to say this, and I'm saying it's not controversial.
I don't think she will. Let me say she won't. I don't think so.
Well, it's not just that. She's running for a riding in Center Toronto, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Unless
And
I'm
running
wrong,
against Marcy Ian.
unless I'm wrong, I haven't seen that strong support of the Jewish community for one of the sisters.
True, true.
Ah, there you go. So, and of course, the Green Party. Anyways, I don't want to focus on the Green Party, but this might be a political death. If not for the Green Party, at least for Anime Poll. I wish her the best. But in terms of the bigger picture, I honestly think the PPC is a party on the rise because there's a lot of angry white people out there.
White grievance party for sure.
Of course. They'll bring on the white tears and the white victimization from Quebec to BC and everything, and all the Canadian conspiracy theorists. And, there are too many immigrants, which is a lie, by the way. But the point is just that for Trudeau, it's quite simple. It's kind of like when you play dice. If he wins, he will be seen as a political strategist genius because if he wins, because he's there to force it.
Well, the only way he can win is with the majority, and I don't think that's going to happen.
No, he's not going to have a majority, but I see a minority.
We'll see.
But knowing also how NDP will be, the rise of a party like the PPC will just push them closer to the Liberal Party to side with them instead of basically a PPC and conservative.
Wouldn't it be interesting if the PPC had the swing?
They might be the king. They might be the kingmakers.
That's what I'm talking about, because who knows if the NDP is going to hold on to all their votes.
I'm hoping they get more in Quebec, really.
Right, but I think the focus for me tomorrow night is on NDP and PPC and Bloc. That's where my focus is.
Oh, those are the kingmakers. Absolutely.
That's where my swing is. Well, you know what, folks, just remember what I said: trauma, repetition, symbolism. And in this if you look at this election, especially from a Black lens, you'll begin to say,
and Indigenous lens.
Yeah, and it's those three things stick out prominently. I don't know. I think that this has been a very interesting lesson. One last question for both of you: what is your opinion of the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at this time?
No comment.
Oh!
I'm exhausted. I'm tired that we make it all about the one guy, the one person. Yes, he's the leader, but seriously, I mean, he's got a team. He's got a team, Christia's there, Mariam Munsaf is there, Ahmed is there, it's very weird. I'm not so interested in him per se.
No, I don't have a problem with him.
I'm interested in the team. So the team is what I want to see.
It's a strategic move that he did to call the elections now, and if he wins, if he wins the gamble, for sure he'll be there for the next 4 years, and he will be seen and written off in decades to come as a political genius. If not, he'll be seen as a drama teacher who failed. But I don't have a problem.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
People hate to hear this, but I've said it already. People hate to hear this.
That was live.
People hate to hear this, but I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it again.
When you get Sarah laughing like that, you're on fire.
No, but I mean, people hate to hear this, but I'm sorry to say this, and it may shock a lot of people. It may offend a lot of people. Justin Trudeau is actually not that bad of a prime minister. A lot of failed promises, and he says one thing, and we know his stances regarding women and being a feminist, and yes, we can criticize him on a lot of things, but he's really not as bad as some people try to make him out to be. I mean, he's definitely more personable and more sociable than the robot prime minister Harper was there before. And it's not a diss. No, it's not a diss. It's fine. Harper was an economist, so yes, he was colder, more calculating. Trudeau is a former drama teacher. Of course. No, I mean, it's like me.
That is the line of the election.
There you go. No, I don't have a problem with Trudeau. Justin, I don't have a problem with you.
Gosh.
He's better than people think.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to end it off, folks. I'll have an announcement after these two wonderful people give their contact information. So, Sarah, thanks again. Please get some rest for tomorrow. And if people want to touch base with you, what's the best way?
Black on Black 891 at hotmail.com. Black on Black airs every Saturday from 11 a.m. to noon on CHUO 89.1 FM.
Wonderful. Cesar, you came back with fire. So I know the vacation, it was a good one when I had drama teacher.
I don't understand why a lot of people thought that me having a child will make me softer. I'm almost offended. What is this? My heroes did not get softer because they had children. It motivated them even further.
Absolutely.
No,
how could people touch base with you? Tears out of my eyes.
Online, you can reach me, rootsandculturecanada.com, send an email, and basically you can also reach me on Facebook, Cesar Rimy, Rimy, and little note regarding Facebook. I won my battle against Facebook for them blocking me. I reached out to higher instances, and I have the proof of it, how I got blocked, and 2 minutes after Facebook apologized because I called them out. As one, you will find articles online, Google, Black activists complaining about Facebook, policy.
So you caused your own drama.
Oh no! I went all the way. I went to the. I forget the name, but there's a body that oversees social media and communications in the United States.
Yeah.
I wrote to them a lengthy email, everything. Absolutely. For the first time, I saw Facebook try to block me again. After that, right away, they apologize. So yes, my Black people never give up when you know you're right. Never give up.
All right, well, folks, just for you watching this live on the replay, tomorrow night, both these people and some others are going to be with us, and we're going to give a Black Canadian lens view of this election. So you can watch your other channels. They probably won't have anyone that looks like us on their platform, aka the last election. Dr. L. Jones was supposed to be on there, and they canceled her at the last minute. So tomorrow night, it's either going to be 9 or 9:30. But again, follow me on social media. Subscribe to me on Facebook, YouTube, etc., Twitter. We're going to have, it could be a long night because, again, we got time zones. And Sarah is more than welcome if she comes on to bring her pillow because she's going to be having a long day tomorrow. But looking forward to it tomorrow because I just said, I've seen a lot of, communications with politicians, but why don't we talk about the results?
Yeah, I'll be on the air though, so.
Oh, that's all right. No,
not on the So.
Yeah, but I know Sarah will find a way of chiming in.
I will.
Or she'll text me and I'll feed her comments live. So tomorrow night, 9 or 9:30, we're gonna nail it down tonight. And people, if you want to vote, please vote. If you don't, I understand. I'm not gonna be saying, but if you want to vote, please vote. And I hope if you try to do advance voting.
No, it's done. No,
I know.
It's over.
I asked if anyone did that, but
I did.
Yeah, we're looking to see. We're gonna really have a really good lens on tomorrow night, and I have a feeling with. Oh, Cesar has his hand up. Drama teacher, yes.
I just wanted to take last 15 seconds. I apologize. I forgot to say it.
No problem.
Why am I wearing a Wu-Tang outfit? Not just because it's my favorite hip hop group, but that track by Wu-Tang, Cream, Cash Rules Everything Around Me, is regarding not just money, but also politics.
Oh, of course. That's another discussion altogether.
My dear Black people, tomorrow is voting day. You can choose not to vote, but never forget, politics will always look at you and do something about you. So yes, my dear Black people, go out there, vote. It's not so much about who's going to be sitting on Parliament Hill as Prime Minister. It's also and very much about your local community politics.
Yes.
Go out there and vote.
Yep. I think we also have to do some more conversations about community or local elections, because those are the real things that we have to control. Because you see in the United States, folks, lots of things happen at the government, like high government level, but state-wise, it's a totally different story.
Yes.
That's where we have to really start pushing things. And if anything, if the last 2 years have not told us to get our act together, I don't know what's going to do it.
There you go.
I don't know what's going to do it. So let's see if regardless of what happens tomorrow, we got to get our backsides in gear. Right? We got to get our backsides in gear, because if I'm a young Black person right now, I'm going, what the heck is this all about? So I am Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations. And I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. And I host the only online show in the world for fathers and dads that is sponsored by Dove Men Care and also co-sponsored by Dad Central Canada's National Fatherhood Organization. And I am the board chair for the Global Food and Drink Initiative, which is a multimedia not-for-profit that showcases Blacks in the diaspora that are doing their thing in food, wine, and travel. No, food, drink, and travel. Sorry, not wine, food, drink, and travel. So again, reminder, tomorrow night, around 9:30 Eastern time, we're going to be laying it down for a few hours and giving our thoughts on the election that's happening from a Black Canadian lens. As always, end off with this: live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions and aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. And remember to give yourselves grace. I'd like to thank everyone who watches live or on the replay, and also want to thank everybody who continually supports what we do here. We want Black Canadian media in this world, not just in this country, worldwide. So please follow my platform. We need to make Black Canadian media prominent. We have to control our narrative. We cannot let other people control our narrative. We've let other people control our narrative. And are you happy with what's being said about you in media? I'll just leave with that message. God bless. Peace to all. Keep the faith. Walk good. And thank you, BIA Media. Peace. See you tomorrow night.